It's the JT the Brick Show. We're going to have a lot of positive energy. The guys that love to compete and play with passion are going to have a chance at the place. Your Silver and Black home to sound off for over 25 years.
Man, I'm loving it, man. They're making my job tremendously easy to be out here with these young, talented players, man. I think we have a really good team. I'm super excited. I'm already loving this fan base. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
And now, here's JT the Brick.
Out of the gate, JT, man, I'm like a pilot trying to get my headset on, my microphone on. I'm like a pilot 30,000 feet, but we can't do autopilot. I got to go hardcore for 25 minutes and open up this thing because we are in one of the most important off seasons. I am judging in Raider history, so every show matters. Every show that I'm here, but every show should matter because, like a pilot, we are waiting to get clearance from the tower on when to land with a head coach. And I'm not nervous about it at all because I've been through this rodeo, man. I've been through this rodeo more than anybody you know in media. So I got some scars, some experience. I know how this works. Sometimes I'm super excited. Other times I'm, all right, wait and see. But this one is unique to me, and that's the focus of the monologue, brought to you by the Strat, part of Golden Entertainment. Climb to the top of the Strat. You'll take the elevator. You'll go to the top of the world. You take your kids to the rides. I have a cigar out there from time to time at a VIP event. Head on down to the William Hill Sportsbook. Get ready for March Madness and the madness of March. Yeah, March Madness is coming pretty soon, sooner than you think. I've always said this. The Strat has great watch parties and a great opportunity for you to find a spot for what's one of the greatest events in Vegas. March Madness just coming in a few short months here after the Super Bowl in February. Used to be at the end of January, Super Bowl in February. After that, we kind of focus for March Madness, get into the NBA. Golden Knights hockey is very important. And the offseason is going to be the most important offseason, as I said, in Raider history because of the combination of the Raiders having arguably their worst season ever. Like you would put this on all-time worst seasons, get the number one pick. That rarely happens for any team, rarely happens for this team. So that's the perfect storm. We're in Vegas now, not LA or Oakland. That makes it different. And then you take a look at $100 million in free agency, as much as the Raiders have ever had in an offseason. And you got some unique things happening in regards to the players you want to keep, the players you want to leave. You don't have a coach. So this is a storm. I won't call it the perfect storm. And I've been trying to tell you that here for about a last week or two, that this is about risk reward. And I posted that in a video today on X at JT the Brick. Life is about risk and reward. And I'm not a super big analogy guy. I'm not divorced, so I don't have a divorce analogy for you. I don't use the weather or cars as an analogy. I don't do a lot of analogy radio. Boy, there are some guys out there that build their monologues just on, sitting here trying to relate it to something else. But I will do it this time on risk reward. My whole life has been about risk with hopefully a little bit of reward. And that's my whole life. And I didn't grow up that way. My dad wasn't a risk reward guy. My dad was a conservative government accountant, the greatest guy I've ever met, the sharpest guy I've ever met, the greatest man of integrity I've ever met, my dad. And my dad had a job out of college, and he stayed with it his whole life. And he retired at the age of 59. I just turned 60. I'm working as hard as I've ever worked because I just love to work. And my dad retired early because he had a tax business too. So he did tax returns and never really slowed down. And I get the work ethic that I have from my dad. And I hope my sons get my work ethic, which they're proving to me every day. I like to work. I like to grind. I like long hours. I like to do long haul trucking. That's my legacy in radio. I'm not your favorite radio host. Hopefully I'm not the worst, but nobody has ever outworked me and done more hours than me. And I will take that to the end. Someday I'll get introduced at a banquet and they'll say, no one was on the radio more than that guy. And I'm proud of that because I don't bring a lot more to that. I just give opinions, but I don't mind risk. So I risked leaving being a stockbroker, a six-figure job, to go work at Sports Fan Radio Network for $25,000. I said, can I get 30? They're like, we'll give you half of it. You know what my dad said? He goes, I got your back. Go do it. And I gave up, 3/4 of my income to start on radio at night. Now, you wonder why I get a little bit bitter from time to time with some of these radio shows that have 6 or 7 co-hosts and 2 of them wear costumes and they're on there shaking their head trying to get on TV. I'm pretty bitter about that because I did it the right way, the hard way. I didn't put on a costume and join a radio show and say, make fun of me for 2 years and then give me my show. I get really bitter about that. I should let it go, actually. But I risked my career to get into radio. I think that's pretty cool. It worked out reasonably well. I risked moving to Vegas. That was a risk. I was living in San Diego and La Jolla. Pretty good place to leave. Not many people leave that. I moved to Vegas into a 2-bedroom apartment. If I didn't make that move, I wouldn't have met my wife. The greatest thing in my entire life by far. So risk reward, I understand. And I understand in sports what risk reward is because I grew up in New York, a Yankee fan with George Steinbrenner, and he was all about reward. And he risked. He wouldn't sign guys that didn't work, but he signed Reggie Jackson. He signed Dave Winfield. He went out and signed guys, and he risked his own money. George Steinbrenner didn't have a lot of money. He did not. He wasn't a rich cash owner, and he risked his money to buy the Yankees and build the Yankees to arguably, and I think it's a fact, the greatest North American sports franchise of all time. No debate. Even Harry Ruiz and Paul Gutierrez won't debate that with the Dodgers. So that's risk reward. So I grew up with that all around me. But when it comes to where the Raiders are at right now, there's tremendous risk, which I hope will finally lead to reward. Raiders haven't had a lot of good luck. They haven't. They haven't had a lot of good luck. They've hired really good coaches over the years, and they haven't worked. And they were ready for the job, and they were more than qualified. John Gruden, Josh McDaniels, and Pete Carroll were more than qualified for these jobs. And if you don't think so, you don't know anything about football. They were qualified. It didn't work with Josh McDaniels twice in Denver, went with the Raiders, and he's going to get another head coaching opportunity. He might be coaching in the Super Bowl this year with New England. You don't like him? I'm not looking to convince you should like him. I get it, but he's going to coach again most likely. Some owner is going to say, we got a young quarterback, we want him to be the coach. It won't happen here. Don't worry, guys. So the Raiders have to decide on how risky they want to get with this coaching hire. I'm good with whatever they do. It's not because I'm exhausted and tired. I just went and told you I was the hardest working guy on radio. I'm not exhausted and tired. I've never had more energy and more fun. But the Raiders are risking getting a proven head coach for a young head coach. There is a lot of risk to that. There is. Now, fortunately, this franchise found success with a young John Madden and a young John Gruden. So that's part of the cornerstone and the DNA of this franchise. And Mark Davis was there for both of that. Mark Davis grew up the son of Al Davis in the hiring of John Madden. And Mark was there when his dad hired John Gruden. So Mark knows all about that. I mean, you can't criticize Mark for taking shots. He's hired every type of coach. Every type of coach you could hire, Mark has said, yeah, we'll go with this type of coach. But now it's different because Mark is pretty much indirectly saying to Tom Brady and John Spytek, I'll get on the flight with you. I'll go to the game. I'll look at that. But you guys are going to get this right. And I don't think that's a risk. I think bringing Tom Brady into this scenario is not an arbitrage hedge fund risk. It's not like buying a penny stock where you're going, man, we're just going to take a flyer on this. Now, Clay and I were talking about Davis Webb, who's 30 years old. And Clay, he could end up being the head coach of the Raiders. Is there some risk, Clay, to hiring a guy who's never been a coach, right, never been a coordinator, never been a head coach? That brings along some level of risk.
It does, because it's not just a guy handling the offense. You got to handle the defense, too. If you have somebody like Max Crosby, ask yourself this question. Is Max Crosby going to respect this leader? Is Max Crosby going to follow this guy through thick and thin? You got to ask little things like this.
Yeah, I think Max will be vetted in this conversation. Very good point. I don't think they make a move at one point without saying, Max, this is what we're going to do. We're not taking your recommendation and completely running it, but Max gets that type of respect. But it's risk reward now. And that's what we're in over the next 2 weeks. And I'm really comfortable in that because, as I told you, my whole life's been about risk reward. I'm not scared to stay in a stock hold on to a stock when the market's cratering. I have the balls to hang out in a risk-reward situation because I've lived also life where the biggest risk and reward are life. Like someone in your family has cancer. That's really risky, right? That's bigger than sports. Or something in your life. You're making a big transaction. You're buying a home, which is risky. You're moving from one state to another for your kids. You're doing something. That's more important than football. But the world that we're living in right now, is football, right? For these 2 hours and the other shows I do, I try to focus on sports. And this sports world that we're living in the NFL, not just the Raiders topic, for everybody out there is much about risk reward. I mean, there was a wackadoodle press conference today in Buffalo like I've never seen. And when I say never, I was there for the Al Davis overhead projector press conference, which was damn cool. It didn't go over well with everybody, but I was there for that in the room. And I swear to God, there was no more than 25 people there, and I was one of them. I can prove it. I was there for that. And what happened in Buffalo with Terry Pagula and Brandon Beane, they're going through this presser. And Clay, we got a portion of that where the owner interrupts the GM. I watched this. I was like, whoa, wait, what the hell's going on? Because I got some Buffalo buddies. I'm going to talk about it more next hour. But here's the GM who got elevated to the presidency of the team. The fans don't like him because the fans are pissed off that they fired Sean McDermott. So the GM president's addressing the media, and the owner interrupts.
Yeah, can I interrupt? I'll address the Keon situation. The coaching staff pushed to draft Keon. I'm not saying Brandon wouldn't have drafted him, but he wasn't his next choice. That was Brandon being a team player and taking advice of his coaching staff, who felt strongly about the player. And, he's taken, for some reason, heat over it and not saying a word about it. But I'm here to tell you the true story.
Right. Wow. Okay. So why is that such a big deal? Normally, an owner doesn't lead you into the gossip of an organization. I don't lead anybody into gossip. I'm not a gossip monger. I'm not. I just don't gossip when it comes to the Raiders. I got a couple of friends. Hey, this guy might get divorced. Hey, yeah, our buddy's coming out to Vegas. He didn't look right. A guy talk between friends. But I've never once, since 1998, ever gossiped about the Raiders. Hey, JT, what'd you hear in the hallway, man? You were there. You were hosting Raiders Roundtable. You went. Did you see anything or hear anything? No, wrong guy. I'm loyal. I don't gossip. I don't gossip about inside the walls of the Raiders. So if you say, how come JT didn't know about this? Did JT know that Pete Carroll's son wasn't a good coach? I knew all of it. I know all of it, believe me. I know more than the majority of everybody on what's going on as a media member inside the building. I just don't gossip. And that's it. If you want a gossip podcast or a gossip channel, there are many of them out there. Many of them out there that would cater to you. We're trying to give you here what we have with some passion, some fun, some calls, some interviews. But we are not the gossip channel. And then when things become obvious and coaches get fired, do I get a little bit looser with what I saw going on? Yeah, but I'm not the guy in week 10 that's going to tell you this, that, or that about Pete Carroll and all this until the season's over, because that's the professionalism that I bring to the show. Not that other people aren't professional, but other people are in a different business than me. They're in the business of gossip, clickbait, and stirring the pot. I don't want to stir the pot. All I want to do is see the Raiders win every game. I even had a fan the other day rip on me, say, how could you want Fernando? You wanted the team to win all the games. Okay, blame it on me. Blame it on me now that we're getting Fernando. Blame it on me. I'm the bad guy. We're getting Fernando now, Clay. I'm the bad guy because I wanted to win in week 7, 8, 9, and 10 and not lose all the games to get Fernando. Whatever you want to do, you be you. I'm good with it. It's taken me a while, but I'm finally good with it. So we're at the point now where there's risk reward as I get back to that. And it's getting really risky now, because there's only a few coaches left. So as I look at my notes today, and I look at all my notes, and I'm trying to figure out, what to talk about as I'm prepping the show with Clay earlier. I really think the big topic of today's show was Terry Pagula going off the rails at the Buffalo Bills press conference. He did. He went off the rails. The owners don't do that normally, and that could affect the next coaching hire. The next head coach could look at that, Clay, and say, wait a second. The owner just threw the coach under the bus who they got fired, saying that the coach wanted this guy and he made the kind of GM do it. The new candidate and the agent doesn't want to know that they're walking into that in Buffalo.
The coach that helped you build something out of nothing, the coach that helped lead you to 7 straight seasons of 10-plus wins and all these playoff victories, if that's the guy you want to throw under the bus, and you want me to come in to that firestorm so I can have that happen to me too, you give that that kind of disrespect to one of the most respected coaches, I'm going to think twice.
Yeah, I would think twice too. So that's something I'm going to talk about a little bit later on today. And then when you look at the depth of the coaching hires that are left, a lot of people are asking me about Kirk Cignetti. I like to dip the show in reality. I like to talk about stuff that could happen. A big line that I always say on the show is I'm not the practice squad guy. I don't spend a lot of time at training camp diving into the practice squad. I don't. It's not my thing. They don't play normally. 1 or 2 come off the practice squad, contribute. They're all Raiders. They make the team. I respect them all. But I don't do segments on practice squad guys. I don't, because they don't play. And I got to focus on giving you the guys who are going to play. So Kirk Cignetti, I don't think is going to be the coach of the Raiders, but he's the coach, probably the best coach we've seen in a decade, even though it just happened 1 year. No, he was really good at James Madison, and he turned an entire program around. I think it's interesting. I think the Raiders should talk to Cignetti because they need to know the type of coaches that Fernando would want around him. Does that make sense? I think it makes a lot of sense. I put it in the monologue. I think the Raiders should be talking to Cignetti, and you could say, well, hey, over a dinner or a meal, you could be talking about Cignetti, and like at the end of the meal, you can offer him the job, right? I don't think any Raider fan would have a problem with that, but that probably is not going to happen. But maybe you want to talk to him about some of the people that worked with Fernando Mendoza, what makes him comfortable, how hard did he push him, how much did he get in his head? Did he ever have to reprimand him? Did he ever have to do anything? So that's one of the things I was thinking about today. And you got to remember, as we sit here today, most of these head coaching candidates are all rookies or have proven losing records as head coaches. Kevin Stefanski, Robert Saleh, Brian Dable, right? Most of these guys, if you want to hire one of these coaches, you're going to hire someone who's failed recently, or you're going to be hiring a rookie. But the key point that I wanted to make today is that the head coaches who are going to get hired, who can they bring with them as assistants? My friend Johnny Morton, who played tight end for the Raiders and coached with the Raiders under Gruden, coached with the Niners under Harbaugh, coached with Sean Payton in New Orleans, and then was brought to Detroit to be the offensive coordinator. Well, Dan Campbell made a big mistake. He took the play calling away from him, and the season fell apart. We chronicled that on the show. Johnny Morton just got hired for the playoffs by Sean Payton to be a consultant, just to be a consultant. And he actually got a play installed that worked for a touchdown because they have a relationship. So it's a lot about who you bring in and who your assistant coaches are going to be. So if you want to go hire Clint Kubiak or Davis Webb, you got to know that they have to have assistant coaches, and it's going to be hard for those guys to bring in assistant coaches late in the program, late in the process. Davis Webb is not going to bring a lot of guys in from Denver. He's not. They're going to stay with Sean Payton. They're almost at the Super Bowl in Denver. They are. Sean Payton's going to keep a lot of those guys because Bo Nix broke his ankle, and they're going to reload next year. And then Clint Kubiak, if he gets hired, that's always been my number one choice. Number one preference is Clint Kubiak because I like his play calling a lot, and I think you can tie that really easily into Mendoza. He'll bring some coaches with him from Seattle. He'll bring a few. But we already brought a bunch of guys in from Seattle with the Pete Carroll staff. Anybody know that? Wow, ding, ding, ding. Everyone's bell just went up. What did JT say? Oh, we already brought in a bunch of guys from Seattle on the last hiring, and that was only a year ago. Where do you think some of the people that came in who flew on the team plane were from? Seattle. And they're great men of honor, good men. I hope to see all of them back. But things change. So remember that today. The point I wanted to make to all of you is that risk reward. I don't know who the head coach is going to be. No one does. There's housewives on the internet saying, well, Tom, you don't know Tom Brady. Stop. You don't know who Tom Brady's going to pick. You have no idea. But you got some housewives on the internet that want to have a podcast and they're going to tell you what they're hearing. They're not hearing more than me. I promise you I know more than them. I promise you I know more than them. But I'm not here to gossip and say this is what Tommy's thinking because Tom's not telling me what he thinks. But everybody else seems to have an opinion. Well, I'm hearing this. No, you're not. No, you're not hearing anything. Maybe that's the point of the monologue. No one's hearing anything other than Jay Glazer maybe and Adam Schefter. I'll throw in Rappaport, Mike Garafolo. There's a few guys. We got Rhett Lewis on tomorrow. But none of them are on a yacht with Tom Brady. None of them are on the private jet with Mark Davis and Tom and Spytek. None of them. So as you're trying to cut through the gossip and all of the rumors out there, I'm not here to claim that I have it. I don't. I said, don't come for me for that. But don't believe all this garbage that you're hearing when someone comes on a sports cable radio show and said, what I'm hearing is this. No, you're not hearing anything. You don't know anything. You know nothing. When you say, well, I'm hearing Tom Brady wants an offensive coach to work with Fernando Mendoza, I could get a 4-year-old toddler in Summerlin at the park to say that. That's Captain Obvious stuff. There's no news. Brady's stealth. You don't know Tom Brady. Now, if Julian Edelman went on a podcast and Jules said, yeah, I think Tom's going to go in this direction. I'd go, oh my God, get me the sound. Get me the sound. Julian Edelman knows him. But there aren't many people that know him, Clay.
No, that's a direct connection. You trust guys like that. If they're going to go on a limb to say that, there's smoke and fire right there. Just cause and effect.
Now, there is a guy I respect a lot. He comes from wealth, but he doesn't put it in anybody's face. Jordan Schultz, kind of friend to the show. We'll see him up on Radio Row. And Jordan Schultz, his dad's Howard Schultz, multi-billionaire of Starbucks. Jordan could be the CEO, CFO of Starbucks and make $2 billion a year. No, he wants to be an NFL insider. He's got a lot of sources for obvious reasons. He's been connected for a while. Here's what he thinks. Here's the latest update from today on what the Raiders might be thinking.
The Raiders are believed to be focusing on an offensive-minded head coach to pair with the likely number 1 overall pick and Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza, alongside weapons like Brock Bowers and Ashton Genty. I've heard a lot of Clint Kubiak and Davis Webb mentioned here. Jesse Minter, a defensive-minded coach, has come up as well. But within league circles, the belief is that this will ultimately be an offensive hire. The question is simply, who will that be? Now, John Spytek and Tom Brady will make that decision collectively. It's probably worth mentioning that Brady has been calling a number of Seahawks games of late and has another one Sunday in the NFC Championship game. Why is that important? Because Brady's had a first-hand look at Clint Kubiak's offense. And he's been putting on a master class on how to run an offense predicated on explosiveness, balance, and brilliance.
I like that. He said the Raiders are believed. He didn't say, I know, I'm here. He said the Raiders are believed to be looking at an offensive-minded head coach. I agree with that. And then he told you something pretty interesting because he's up in Seattle. Brady's calling all these Seattle games. He's getting firsthand views and meetings of Clint Kubiak's offense. Oh, my God, what a hook. What a hook. I mean, Brady could figure this out on his own anyway, but he's there. He's calling these Seahawks games. He can go back to Mark Davis and John Spytek and said, look, there was this 3rd and 6 play. Even I, Tom Brady, saw the coverage from I was calling the game, and Kubiak threw something in there I didn't even expect. Like, that's the type of stuff that I find really interesting, is that who are these guys connected to? They're connected to everybody. Tom Brady's connected to everybody in this league in one way or another. And they're vetting everybody. All our insiders, Vinny Bonsignor, everybody's reporting The Raiders have checked every box now. They're officially ready to go. They've talked to everybody that you could talk to. Now they're going to want to talk to some people again, and it's going to be a little complicated on the window that we're dealing with because there's still teams that are going to be around. So I find this fascinating still. I love the monologues the last couple of days because I come in here every day and there's something great to talk about. When there are days like today where there's not a lot of Raider stuff, right? There's not a lot of Raider news. It was Mendoza yesterday. We beat that to the ground, right? We beat Mendoza into the ground Tuesday and today. I don't got a lot of Mendoza to play. I don't. You know what I mean? I'll play a soundbite that he loves his teammates. I can do that. We know that the Raiders are working out of Miami when Brady was there for the championship game, and they're conducting a lot of interviews. We all know that stuff. Other than that, we know the candidates who are remaining. But the Sean McDermott one's very interesting. And a lot of the bigger insiders don't think he's interested maybe in the Raider job. He might not be. Go talk to him. Figure out if he is. And find out if he is. And if he is, would he be a good coach? He'd be a hell of a coach. But we had something very similar in Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll was bigger than Sean McDermott. You can't argue that. You can't argue with me that Sean McDermott's better than Pete Carroll. He's not. He's younger, not better than Pete Carroll, and it didn't work for Pete Carroll. So does that give you pause when you see these veteran head coaches like McCarthy or McDermott because you saw what happened with Pete Carroll? And does that mean you automatically want someone really young? So that's where we're going today. It's wide open. Baseball Hall of Fame. I got something to say about Pete Rose. I always have Pete Rose's back. Carlos Beltran is a Hall of Famer and not Pete Rose. What? I thought I got something to say on that. More on what's happening with the Bills and everything. All I am is a high energy sports talk traffic cop. If I got 9 people on hold, I can run traffic. If I got no one on hold, I just pound away for another segment. You can choose what you want to hit on. You Raider fans, I love to hear what you're thinking. I love to hear what you're thinking in Raider Nation, because if you think I have a blind spot and I'm missing something, then I definitely want to know what I could be missing, and I respect you. I really do. And I want to know what you have to say. 702-365-9200. Eric in Las Vegas on the head coaching candidates and the search. Hello, Eric.
Dusk till dawn, baby.
Oh, dusk till dawn, my guy. Please go ahead. You covered the Gruden years. You know this team. You're about as diehard of a Raider fan as I know. Who do you want?
Missed 2 games in 50 years. So you talk about risk and reward. Could not agree with you more. Risky in 1998, first year I covered the Raiders to bring in a young guy like was risky in 2007. You were there when they brought in a young guy named Lane Kiffin. I'm intrigued, JT, about Davis Webb because there's reports that he could be linked with Cliff Kingsbury, who will be an adult in the room. I think Kingsbury was in the building interviewing for the OC job under AP, and it didn't work out. He probably wanted a younger quarterback. He got with the Commanders, and he coached up Jaden Daniels. Very intrigued with Davis Webb, and I love Clint Kubiak. Those are my 2 guys. My question to you, my friend, is there someone out there that we don't know about? Is there a wild card? Because Brady's so stealth that you say to yourself, man, my name came out of nowhere. Where'd they find this? That's what I'm intrigued about. But if you're asking me, I'm going Davis Webb first, and I'm going Clint Kubiak number 2. I know you like Kubiak number 1, but I remember when Davis Webb was drafted by the Giants. Remember, all the coaches were saying, this guy's going to be a coach in years. And just because you're 30 years old doesn't mean you can't be a whiz kid. And look at all the internet guys that were developing the internet from Steve Jobs and guys. They're all in their late 20s, early 30s. Let's pick one of those whiz kids.
You got it, buddy. Good to hear from you. I love hearing your opinions. Dusk till dawn at Shucks. What a great place to go late night. No doubt about it. Well, there's no surprise there's only been one rookie head coach hired, and that's Hafley, who went to the Dolphins, and that was a bit of a surprise. Not a lot of people are doing backflips in Miami with the coach they hired. They're not. They took 2 guys from Green Bay, but no one's going nuts on it. And, Kubiak, Schuler, Jesse Minter's a big name, Webb. LaFleur. There's some young coaches that are going to get hired because we still got 6 jobs open here. Got to fill them with someone. I think Mike McCarthy's probably going to get the Steelers job. He deserves that. I think he's pretty good. Mike McCarthy, you're not going to go wrong with it. I don't think Mike McCarthy might not be your fit here in Vegas because we just had Pete Carroll. And again, I remember because I had a deal with Pete Carroll was great, a gentleman. Really enjoyed my time with Pete Carroll, but I had to deal with people that were upset with Pete Carroll. That weared the hell out of me because Pete Carroll wasn't winning. I wanted to win. Pete Carroll couldn't win with this team. It was really heartbreaking, and we had to talk to him every week. You know, that took a lot out of me, probably that I'm not aware of, because I wanted him to do so well. But you know, I like a young coach. The one thing I will tell everybody too, not the one thing, I've been saying this a bit, I don't care if the coach has a lot of big personality or not. Since the Raiders moved to Vegas, I've dealt with, on a pleasurable basis, I dealt with John Gruden, Rich Bisaccia, Josh McDaniels, Antonio Pierce, right, and Pete Carroll. Those are the coaches I've interviewed exclusively since the team moved to Vegas. I'm proud of those relationships. But I had ups and down guys with emotion, right? Josh McDaniels, very cerebral. John Gruden, very in your face. Rich Bisaccia, very head down, cerebral. Antonio Pierce, very in your face. And then Pete Carroll, 74 years old with the energy of a 50-year-old, running around and really knowledgeable guy. But it didn't work. So if you give me a quiet guy like Clint Kubiak and we're covering him for the next 5 years, I'm great. We don't need a guy like who's going to take his shirt off in the locker room. I don't need a guy who's going to smoke cigars after a game. You think I care about that? I care less. Just want to win. Don't care what the name is. Don't care where he coached before. Not going to lose my mind if he's a former Patriot. Don't care. Just want to win. And that's the monologue. Wow, we went late, 32 minutes. That opens up lines for you. Only guest I have today is Levi Edwards. Okay, Vinny's on the road. Vinny's got a new venture. We usually have him here. We got to reschedule with him. Tomorrow we have Rhett Lewis from NFL Network. Got a couple other guests out there. There is some news on Tom Flores. There's going to be a live streaming party for Tom Flores that I'm a part of. We'll be talking about this over the next week or so. Really excited about what's getting built up for Tom Flores coming up here. Tito's handmade vodka, my go-to. Oh, when you go up to the bar, you say, the bartender knows. Oh, you want a Tito's? Yeah, I'll have a Tito's with soda. Would you like a lime? No fruit. I'm good. Tito's, handmade vodka, all their charity work, all their passion in this community, all the great work they do. What a brand. Tito's, proud partner of our show.
Previously on Unnecessary Roughness.
He didn't have a very good offensive line, and it shows. And I bring this up because Raiders don't.
How are we looking today, chat?
Last year, that was a massive need this year. Indiana said, this is a good quarterback, but we need to protect him. So if you're going to draft Mendoza, which I believe the Raiders are going to do, the first thing you have to do before you draft him, before you ever walk up to the podium in April, you have to already have an offensive line in place, in my opinion.
Unnecessary Roughness with your
Okay. Got my son in here. For those who won prizes, the prizes went out. You're all good. For those, we're going to be giving away more and more stuff to bribe you all to subscribe and like. And we got some good, we found some boxes in the garage with even some better stuff. So see what's happening. See what's happening. Let's see, Levi.
Can't stop using alcohol, drugs, or tobacco. But no matter how lost you are, how far along you are, it's not too late. There's always hope. And there are many safe places that can help you stop using. In Nevada, pregnant women are given the highest priority for substance use treatment. Low-cost treatment options may be available so you and your baby can get healthy now.
Was Kiffin qualified as a coach? Fabian, that's a really good question. Looking back on it, that story, Nate, was so unique because Steve Sarkisian was supposed to be the hire. But Kiffin did a great job impressing Al Davis on the whiteboard in there. And they sent Sarkisian home, who didn't want it. And Al was impressed with Kiffin, and they kept him for that.
Today, sponsored by the Nevada Division of Public and Behavioral Health.
I don't do fan meetups, man. We do remotes. So we're going to be doing something at Grimaldi's coming up here pretty quick in Vegas. We're going to be doing something at La Casa. But I don't like doing a lot of remotes. I like to be focused here.
Our certified pre-owned vehicles at Jaguar Land Rover Las Vegas, or visit us online at JLR.
I'm waiting for McDaniel. I'm waiting for that deal to be official. And if it's official, I apologize. Because I got a lot to say on Mike McDaniel. But I'm not going to say it until it's official. And if you know what I'm talking about, you can probably read between the lines.
Like never before. Our new space means more technology, more service, and more solutions, all designed with you in mind. Plus, we're hiring. If you're ready to grow with a company that values innovation and community, join our team today. Proudly serving Las Vegas for 23 years and counting. Les Olson IT, your business better. Olson,
Let's go. What's up, man?
ready to get high field bonus.
Warriors look terrible now with that Jimmy Butler knee blowout. Kuminga. What's Steve Kerr doing not playing Kuminga? Kuminga should be playing 34 minutes a night. What the hell's going on with that? What's Kerr doing?
With a bonus checking account today, start earning more interest. Because if somebody's
Okay.
making money off your checking account, shouldn't it be you? Funds privately insured by American Share Insurance. Hey, Jeff, how's the new job working out?
All right, let's do a short segment and then we'll get Levi up at 45, please.
Job. You. Wait, what? Truck You. You don't have to curse at me. Dude, you should check out Truck You CD.
Yeah, Bob Myers was a big loss, man. He was really good with the Warriors.
He has a new career making great money. Okay, I'm listening. Truck You offers small classes with night and weekend times available. They will even help with payment programs. Check them out. Truck, the letter U, LV.com. Truck You. From birthdays to business meetings, or just because, Craze makes every moment delicious. Artful charcuterie boards, made fresh. Visit crazecraze.com. Celebrate everything. Call 702-605-6333. Craze Charcuterie. Every seat is a front row view to the biggest game of.
I don't like the word tank, but I'm happy they got Mendoza. I hope you respect that. I don't like the tank, and that'll never change. And I don't like the term rebuild. That's not my favorite word, rebuild. A whole bunch of teams won 4 games last year and are in the playoffs. The Raiders should have won about 6 this year. They won 3. They should have won minimal 5. So don't tell me about rebuilding, because the Patriots won 4 games. Carolina, I mean, you can get to the playoffs.
The official tequila of the JT the Brick Show.
The question is simply, who will that be? Now, John Spytek and Tom Brady will make that decision collectively. It's probably worth mentioning that Brady has been calling a number of Seahawks games of late and has another one Sunday in the NFC Championship game. Why is that important? Because Brady's had a firsthand look at Clint Kubiak's offense. And he's been putting on a master class on how to run an offense predicated on explosiveness, balance, and brilliance.
Jordan Schultz, kind of a newer still NFL insider, on his opinion with what the Raiders could be doing with Clint Kubiak, who I'd be fine with him as a head coach. So if Davis Webb was a head coach, fine with it. And fine with everything. There's not many people left that I'd go nuts with. Oh, my God. You know where I stand on Gruden. It would break the internet if he came back. Doesn't look like he's in this hiring cycle again, which I don't think is fair to him. It's not a Raider topic. That's an NFL topic. And, another thing I wanted to say that I heard from someone really sharp who was talking about why you want to get guys and guys with experience. A big reason Stefanski got hired in Atlanta, the defensive coordinator would stay, and he could bring Bill Callahan in to coach the offensive line. That was an important part to Arthur Blank and why he brought him in there. And that comes from someone pretty high up. So if you can get the right assistant, it could be the difference in getting hired or not with the candidates that are remaining, the candidates that remain left. Levi Edwards will join us here in about 10 minutes. 303 Raider out in Denver. You're up next.
Hey, JT, super excited as a Raider fan going through what we went through for a long time. And yes, we get Mendoza, you get the QB, and let's go young. I mean, at the end of the day, as long as we win, we really don't care who the coach is, but I think it's time to go back to the last time that we dominated the AFC West when we hired a young Gruden offensive coordinator out of Philadelphia. In those 3 years, as you know, because you were calling game, because you were our radio host for the Raiders, we either lost to the eventual Super Bowl champion or we went to the Super Bowl and lost. We need a young mind to pair with Mendoza. So Tom Brady and John Fight. I actually think Brady already knows who he wants. I know Raider fans are freaking out that we haven't hired anyone yet. I believe they want to go young. And if that's Kubiak, great. I don't care about his personality. As long as he can come in, mentor Mendoza, create a winning system. And I truly believe, JT, it's going to take a couple of years before we're competitive. And let me explain to you why. The examples that were talked about with the Bears, with the Jaguars, and the Patriots this past year. But the one thing is that those quarterbacks, outside of who's there a few years, this is their second year. And then they brought in the coach. So I think Mendoza's going to need 2 years because we've got a lot of holes. We got to figure out the offensive line once and for all. And it still pisses me off that Carroll, Vitek, and Brady didn't recognize we needed to beef up the O-line. Raider, you could have pulled Raider Nation, JT, and we would have said, hey, we need a right tackle and we need another guard. It is still mind-boggling to me that JPJ was not our center. So we got to fix the O-line. If you look at the 4 teams in now this year, they've got their franchise quarterback designated, and I know that Nick is hurt, but he's their franchise quarterback. And then they all have top 10 defenses. So I don't think it is possible to fix the O-line and to fix the defense, even with $100 million. But I'm going to give Spytek a pass. You know, maybe he needs a full off season, and maybe Carroll really wasn't their choice, right? I know they went after Ben Johnson, right? And I give Brady credit. They also wanted Stafford. That maybe would have changed the trajectory of us last year. But I'm excited that we're finally rebuild. This is not a reload. It is a full rebuild. And Fernando Mendoza looks like the guy. And I'm excited. So let's go young.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to go young? I appreciate it. I don't think it's a full rebuild. I don't. I think they're going to fix the offensive line in one off season. One off season, the offensive line, they were so bad. The offensive line was so terrible that it's real. This is going to sound weird. It's going to be easy to fix it. It was so bad. It was like you bought a tear down house. You're buying a house that's a tear down. It's so easy to fix up a tear down. Not $1.5 million house. You have your wife roll in and you go, this house, and we just paid $1.5 million. You're not going to pull out the marble. You're not pulling out the tile. That's why it's $1.5 million. We got to find a way to fix it. No, with a tear down, you just tear it down. This offensive line needs to be torn down and rebuilt. Now, I don't mean get rid of everybody. Of course, guys are going to stay. But it is something that is easily fixable with money. Money. You just go buy the 2 best offensive linemen available or 2 out of the top 6. But you better get the top 1 or 2. Who's ever the best free agent on the offensive line, center, guard, whoever it is, he's got to be a Raider. And then with the rest of your money, you got to go get another starting offensive lineman. I don't think that's that difficult when you have $100 million. If you're New Orleans and you got no money, then it's really hard. So that's the way I see it. I think it's going to be much easier to rebuild the offensive line because the offensive line is so bad. That's not me. I love the Raiders. I want the offensive line to be great. Everybody else around the league thinks it's a bad offensive line, and they played poorly. They got to get better. When we come back, Levi Edwards is up next. We'll get his idea on the young coach versus the old coach. What is left?
150 verdicts, $2 million or more.
Anything
In Nevada,
like I expect. I mean, who knows how the future holds, but. Back on here. We'll get back going here. We're back here. Wi-Fi is up again. Cool little thing that we've done now is we take the monologue and then we repackage it at night for other people who hadn't get a chance to watch it. So it's another thing my son was able to do. And we got some advertising opportunities here now because we've reached a nice number of engagements here on YouTube. So we're excited about that. Yeah. So Cody Bellinger to the Yankees. Who would have thought that Kyle Tucker would make $20 million more than Aaron Judge and cause a lockout? The Dodgers are going to cause a lockout because of Kyle Tucker.
Kyle Tucker is going to be what's going to cause a salary cap to happen in Major League Baseball.
And what's the guy the Mets got? Your center fielder for the Mets?
It's record for
Is he a 220 hitter or something?
He's $20 million, 220. Actually, it's 20 home runs.
20 home runs, and he bats 220, and he gets a freaking big money deal. Okay.
Plug and play.
Now at NRL.com/Vegas. Rugby League, Las Vegas. Let's go.
But they got Bo Bichette. That's the big one.
Don't just call anyone. Call the
Bo
boss.
Bichette.
It's a good player.
Around the house.
I'd like to know what are the differences between Bo Bichette's numbers and Cody Bellinger.
He's a 300 hit.
Yeah.
Bellinger's had some monster years. He won MVP, but he's also had some.
Bellinger's had some bad years, and he's definitely not getting better.
He had a good year.
It's a good year, yeah, but he's not getting better. Grisham got better, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you pleased with the Yankees offseason if it's done? If that's it?
Yeah. Unless there's another pitcher out there. You know. Yep.
My theory on coach hiring is always the opposite of what Devin Ford, like dating a girl. Whatever it was that whatever
Saturday, February 18th. Tickets on sale now at Ticketmaster.
Right. I think they went for experience with Carroll.
Live.
I would expect to be
The
surprised if they
exciting
didn't
action
hire
of
a
the
coordinator
NFL
first time
postseason is
rookie
on
coach.
Westwood One.
The opposite.
What do you need a live read on here with? What would you like?
Let's do.
You know what? Believe it. This is Scott Graham. Join us Sunday for complete coverage of the conference championship games. Our broadcast kicks off at 2 p.m. Eastern Time and goes until the Super Bowl matchup is set. If it's the NFL playoffs, it's on Westwood One. Listen to both games on Raider Nation Radio 920 AM.
Welcome back to the JT the Brick Show, brought to you by Local 872, your workforce solution.
Just get up every day and you take one step at a time and you keep going and you show up and you work. And you know you can make gains every day. And I think we have a big mountain to climb, but we're not trying to do it all in one day. And steady success, leadership, and just show up every day will get us a long way. So I don't know if you totally know that until you go through this, but
John Spytek and his opinions on grinding it. He wants everybody to grind. A lot of people grinded last year. It didn't work. We need new grinders in here. JT, brought to you by Fountain Blue. The Raiders just had a beautiful event for the life of Mrs. Carol Davis, Mark's mom. A lot of dignitaries, a lot of the Raiders, the legends and their wives were at the Fountain Blue. No surprise, the elegance at the Fountain Blue. Many of them got a chance to see the Hall of Excellence. That's the great memorabilia collection from Jim and Fran Gray, along with Tom Brady. It's like nothing I've ever seen. It's incredible. I say that about everything at Fountain Blue, from the restaurants to the bars to the pool. It's just elegant. The poodle room at the top. If you ever get an opportunity, you're coming in from out of town, make sure you head out to the Fountain Blue. You got to see it to believe it. Levi Edwards joins us from Raiders headquarters. He'll be in studio with me for a little bit next week. So Levi, still no coach, no big deal, or still more vetting? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think it should be a big deal. I think playing the long game with a situation like this is probably the best bet. I think a lot of people are going to definitely get nervous because you're going to start to see a lot more candidates kind of go off the board, and then you're just going to be like, okay, well, if it's not him, then who's it going to be? And you're just going to continuously do that. I do think that if you play the long game, and it seems that the Raiders could be potentially doing that, considering that there's a couple of candidates that they have interviewed and that they do like that are still currently playing playoff football, which is a good indication if you ask me, because if you're a coach still playing football right now, that means you're doing something right. So, if Raider Nation can just bear to stay patient and try to let the decision making, transpire, then I think they'll be happy.
So you would agree the risk is if you wait till after the championship game or after the Super Bowl, you could lose that candidate if they change their mind.
Yeah, that is the risk that you do have. But at the end of the day, I mean, if there's a particular guy that they have in mind and they are dead set on making sure that they go after him, then you might as well just put all your cards on the table and try to make it work one way or another. Just go all in on that one candidate. Or I don't know necessarily how many finalists there are. Obviously, there's a couple of guys that are coming in for second interviews now. There's a couple of people that they're definitely interested in that have now been knocked out of the playoffs. But I think patience is definitely a virtue in a situation like this, considering the amount of coaches that's been in the building the last couple of years. The Raiders definitely want to get it right. And I don't think that they should rush to get somebody because they feel like they need to go get someone right now. They need to go and get the guy that they actually want to get.
Levi Edwards is our guest, his head coach tracker, all the information he has. Levi's good year-round. He's great in the offseason from his work in the past at the Senior Bowl, all his work at the Combine. So let's put a bow on Mendoza. There's no more games. Anybody who's critical of him, got to be critical of something that happened in the past, something that happened in some game or something that went down because he's not playing anymore until he takes a snap in the NFL. Give me your overall assessment. He didn't throw a touchdown in the game. He didn't throw for 400 yards, but that signature rushing touchdown is what jumped out for me. What about you?
Yeah, I think I was talking about that last night on the phone, and I've never seen like a Heisman winner have like a Heisman moment after they already won it. I feel like the play where you ran to for a touchdown to essentially win the national championship, I feel like that was probably more impressive of a play than anything I really saw him do during his Heisman run. And I think it really will go down as probably one of the greater plays in college football history. When we look at hindsight being 2020. The last thing I need to see from Fernando Mendoza and prove to me, like, okay, is this guy number one pick quality? Is his toughness, his ability to be able to withstand pressure and hold. And so I'll be honest, if anybody has watched Miami football, not just over the past month, but this year, you know that there's potentially 3 first-rounders on that defensive line, and 2 of them might go in the top 15 of this year's draft. And you knew it wasn't going to be an easy day for Fernando Mendoza to sit behind what is a really good offensive line on Miami. And he stood tall, he got hit, and he kept going. And he didn't have the greatest game, but guess what? There's a lot of quarterbacks that have had the greatest game against Miami's defense. They're just that good. But he was still able to find a way to withstand that, make plays when it mattered, and win. If he did anything, it proved that he's clutch and he's tough. And that's all you can ask for sometimes, even if it's not pretty.
Levi Edwards, as we wrap it up. So I said earlier, probably regret what I said. Someone will clip it and try to embarrass me with it. But I think it's easy to rebuild this offensive line. I really do, because you have to. I use the scenario of a tear-down house. If you're going to tear down the house, it's really easy to build a new one. You're not keeping anything. Other than Colt Miller and JPJ, I think it's easy to spend money and buy 2 offensive linemen in free agency. That can't be difficult unless those free agents go somewhere else. They're free agents. That means they're not staying with their current team. You got to get them away from someone else. Are you at the point that the Raiders are going to need a minimum of 2 starters? Because I can't buy into a starter in the draft. No, we didn't even play our draft picks last year, barely. So I need 2 starters in free agency. Is that doable, Levi?
Yeah, it's definitely doable. I will say with offensive line free agents, it's a little tricky because, there's more stigma. Like if you're an offensive lineman hitting free agency, it's for a reason. Most really good teams, once they have a good lineman locked up, they're going to go and do whatever it takes to make sure that they get paid, kind of like the quarterback position, they're just premier positions. But just with this offensive line, how young it is, and also just the lacking of depth, definitely believe with the amount of cap space that we have and the money that we're going to have to be able to invest in free agency, there's no way that the Raiders can't come out of this free agency with at least two starting quality offensive linemen, especially with all the amenities that come with being in Las Vegas and being in a state that has no state taxes on your income, and you have brand new facilities, and you have a great stadium, and really just a desirable place to be with Tom Brady building. So I think that there's going to be a couple of offensive linemen that are going to jump up opportunity to be able to start and immediately overnight improve the unit that we saw last year. And then on top of that, you just kind of look at what the Patriots have done. Patriots were in the exact same situation last year where they just were not a good team. They didn't win a lot of games. They had a whole lot of cap space, and they were able to hit on all of their free agent signings, and now they're in the AFC Championship game. And so I'm not saying that it's going to be that easy for the Raiders. I wouldn't say it's easy for them to be able to rebuild their offense, but it's not impossible by any means because we've seen it.
All right, Levi, I'm going to leave you about 35, 40 seconds. We're up against it to apologize to the Big Ten for winning 3 in a row, as you are one of the biggest SEC homers I know. And they didn't win one. They won 3, and they won one with a program that's never won anything and had the greatest season of all time. So the greatest season of all time isn't Auburn, Alabama, Georgia, one of your SEC schools. It is Indiana. What would you like to say?
What I'm saying is that we'll not give, really any credit to the Big Ten because it's still not the most relevant conference in America. We all know that it's still SEC. People tune into SEC football. That's where the real money's at. What I'm saying is that we'll give all credit due to Indiana for the amazing season that they had. And in this NIL era, we ever see a team like Indiana with that level of that low level of hype, not all the 4 or 5-star guys being on a team just coming together, just a bunch of dogs, smallest school outcasts winning a national championship. Will we ever see that again? I don't know. So until we do, they've done something that might never be done before, and I'll give a hats off to Indiana, well deserved.
Have a good one, Levi. See you next week.
Thank you so much, JT. I appreciate it.
Levi Edwards, all of his content is available at Raiders.com. Hour number 2 with another monologue coming up next. Stick around for it.
From birthdays to business
I'll be right back,
meetings,
everybody. Well, top of the hour, hydration. Hydration, man. Say hydrate. You all hydrate too. Have a cerveza.
Wants me being born silver and black alone, the history, said it a million times. I feel like I was meant to be a Raider. I love being here.
Your silver and black home to sound off for over 25 years.
It's amazing, opportunity, great community here, and great fan base. So I'm expecting a lot of fun, a lot of energy, a lot of great times.
It's going to be all about competition. There's going to be no easy games are. And here's JT.
All right, JT, we're back for hour number 2 here on the flagship, and we're brought to you by Modelo, the fighting spirit of Modelo. I have a bucket of Modelo's every Friday, and we're always promoting it. Every time we have a backyard brick in my backyard, many times it's brought to you by Modelo, proud partner of our show. I was talking to Q in the hallway today. We're ready to go up to San Francisco for the Super Bowl. This will be 30 years for me on Radio Row. We missed 1 year for COVID. Every other one I've been at. So we got some shows lined up. 10 years ago, I was an animal going up there. I'd get there at 7 in the morning. I'd leave at 10 at night. Not anymore. I'm going to go up there and have fun, do my show from noon to 2, 3 or 4 days a week, do a couple night shows, have some nice dinners, see some Bay Area friends. And actually, I got a really cool gig that I'm going to tell everybody about that's going to be out at a casino in Santa Rosa with some legendary NFL players the weekend of Super Bowl. So that news is coming up here, and hope to see a lot of our Bay Area friends as we come back. I haven't been to San Francisco in quite some time, and San Francisco was my go-to. I lived there. I traveled there. I go see live music. I got friends there. It's just one of those things. When the Raiders moved to Vegas, I just never went back to San Francisco much. I always lived here, other than a couple of years up there. And I'm looking forward to going back. Want to see the city, want to see what's new. Wink, wink. What's old? I like what's old in San Francisco. I just enjoy it. I'm going to have some food and drinks down by Pier 39. Hopefully have a nice opportunity to go south of Market and see some cool spots. We'll be broadcasting from the Moscone Center. That's the convention center, where there's not a lot going on that area of Market Street, near it. Not my favorite part of town. I will not be in Santa Clara under any circumstance. Will I not be moving near Santa Clara at all? And hopefully home base will be North Beach. Original Joe's, the North Beach restaurant, North Star, the great bar, the North Star. So I'm coming, excited to go up there. And we got the Dick and Jaw cigar party, a couple other events that I'm going to, so I'm excited. Let's get going. Hour number 2. Open lines. We should never have an open line. And I'm going to be furious if we have open lines during the Mendoza offseason with no new head coach. So you're on call, everybody, to participate, and that's really right now about the coach. So you better have an idea who the coach is going to be. I know who I like. I know who I really like. I think I know who the Raiders will probably avoid, but it is tough. It's not an easy topic. Not an easy topic at all. We don't know what Tom Brady's thinking because we're not supposed to know what Tom Brady's thinking. Does that make sense? Tom's not telling me. He's not telling you. He's not telling anybody. No NFL insider knows. Tom is stealth, and he's leading this charge. And they seem to have interviewed everybody. They've interviewed everybody, and they're looking for probably final interviews for their, final candidates. And a lot of that has to do with what's going to happen to the Rams and the Seahawks and the Broncos and the Patriots as we have games coming up here, and they're going to be really important. There was an interview with Davis Webb that we found here today on Twitter with Coach Dan Casey. It's very interesting about Davis Webb and the tree and the philosophies he's worked under now that he's with Denver. Here's what he had to say.
What has your learning curve been like in Denver? Has it been any different than the offenses you played with? You played in Buffalo or New York, or is it pretty similar going to Sean Payton's system?
Well, positively and negatively, I had 6 offensive coordinators in my first 3 years of the league. So, playing, that sucked. But coaching, being around the West Coast, my rookie year, my first offense, I then go into the digits. Ben McAdoo, West Coast, Mike McCarthy type system. Cool. What's your name? And then you go to Pat Shermer, which is the digit system. He came from Minnesota, the 7 Heaven, Minnesota Miracle with Stephon Diggs. And then you get Jeremy Bates, West Coast Shanahan family. And then you get Adam Gase, which is more of the Peyton Manning philosophy of offense with a mix of the Earnhardt Perkins. And then you get to Coach Dayball, which is New England tree. However, he's grown a bunch from it. And then you get to go to Mike Kafka, which is a mixture of Dayball, and he brings in a few flavors of the West Coast, being with Andy Reid and Mike's alone plays. So luckily, Sean's West Coast guy, got brought up with John Gruden in Philly. So there was some similarities, but again, it's a new offense, it's a new language, and I treated it like the player, to be honest with you, at first, because that's kind of my goal every year, was to dominate the playbook, and there's nothing new. I just had to talk about it every day as opposed to, every other sentence. So I think, it's been a nice transition. It's a cool offense. Whenever Drew Brees and all these records were broken because of so many great players they had on offense, defense, and coaches. So to hear the history behind each play and why it's called the way it is definitely something that is enjoyable going to work every day and learning.
That's really a fascinating soundbite by Davis Webb, who could be the head coach of the Raiders. He could. I think he's on the short list for what they're looking at. The problem is he has no experience as a head coach or an OC in that scenario. But when it comes to a quarterback coach and a guy who's been around quarterbacks and what he's been able to do, maybe he could be the guy. He's a potential head coaching candidate, and he's got a lot of interesting trees. I'm fascinated by coaching trees. Where'd you come from? Seems like everybody's trying to chase the tree of Shanahan or McVay. That's what's happening now. Everybody's trying to chase the tree of Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay. And if you coach with those guys over the years, or you were a part of that, and you can kind of connect to that and learn a lot. I mean, Matt Nagy has got a lot of respect for the coaches he's worked for, but he wasn't a great head coach, Clay, the first time around. The impression of Nagy is very similar to Josh McDaniels. Good play callers, you want them on your staff. Eric Bieniemy is coming back to Kansas City.
Yeah.
A lot of teams had opportunities to hire Eric Bieniemy, and they didn't do it. So it looks like when Nagy's going to be out because Bieniemy's coming back, and very similar to Cliff Kingsbury. I think good offensive minds and play callers, maybe not the type of head coaching candidate you want.
Yeah, sometimes because, even in our own recent history, where you see a young coach that doesn't have head coaching experience, and they want to surround him with guys like Marvin Lewis and other people that can help him along. Well, it didn't really work out, and there were certain situations that you felt like you needed more of a game manager and somebody that had more experience to handle things like that. But, at the same time, I would want somebody that has a little more experience. Just the fact that I want somebody that has experience with a young quarterback, and I want experience with somebody that's dealt it before. And if it didn't work out the first time, sometimes second time around, it's really strong. And unfortunately, sometimes head coaches that first time around, they get pinned to that young quarterback that they drafted the same way Nagy did with Mitchell Trubisky. Instead of, nobody remembers the 12 wins he had that one year for Chicago. They remember Truby.
Yeah, it's very complicated now, because if you want this organization, I'm just talking about the Raiders. If the Raiders want to go after a guy who's been fired, Raider fans are going to freak out. I'm an expert on this. I'm the expert on this. I got a PhD in Raider therapy. So they should interview me and say, hey, JT, if we do hire a certain guy, what do you think about it? Because you're going to be on the front line catching strays. But no, I'm just making light of this. I'm happy. I'm really happy about what they're going to do next, because I think most Raider fans are going to enjoy it, and they're not going to complain, and they're not going to blanket mode with this one. There's been a lot of complaining from Josh McDaniels to Pete Carroll. I've said this before. I'll look Raider fans in the eye, which I proverbially like to do, but some can't find direction to the torch, I guess. But most Raider fans who know me and talk to me, and I look them in the eye, I tell them to their face, you didn't give Pete Carroll and Josh McDaniels a chance. You never gave them a chance. You didn't like them. You didn't. They didn't do well. So if you want to say you were right, you can say that, because you were right. If you thought that Josh McDaniels and Pete Carroll didn't work or wouldn't work, and you throw out the tarot cards and you predicted in the basement that they weren't going to work, congratulations, you were right. You were right. You were guessing right. You guessed that Pete Carroll wasn't going to do well. A lot of people didn't do that. A lot of people hope. But I'm worried about the fans who never wanted them to do well. We're a team. We're the Raider Nation. You get behind a hire, and Mark Davis is going to make it with Tom Brady. You don't want to shred the guy they're about to hire. So if Davis Webb gets the job with Nada. No experience. Am I going to be dealing with 20% Raider fans screaming, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? Or are we going to get all those Raider fans to go, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to get behind that hire. I like that hire because it's vetted. We got a different look for the team. We got Mendoza. This could be good. Yeah, I'll go with that. Or are there going to be what we call in society today disruptors who are going to disrupt the Raider hiring because they get more attention being disruptors than getting on board with the hire? If you haven't gotten on board with the hires as of late, you won. You were on the right side of the history because the coaches didn't work. For whatever reason, coaches got fired. But they were all vetted. A lot went into those hires. A lot of money went into those hires. A lot of money did. But those were well thought out decisions with good intentions, but they didn't work out. So we're down, and I'll get to this in a little bit on what I think is going to happen coming up with some of the younger candidates. I really want to riff. I really want to get into what the Bills did today at their press conference, which was about as stupid of a press conference as I've seen. I've been around a lot of press conferences. This one was nuts from the Pagula family today. Let's get out to Raider 66 in Vegas. What's happening?
Hey, JT, how you doing today?
Good. Thanks for calling. Good to hear from you.
Good. Yeah, I think the main difference between a McDermott possibility and Carroll would be the OC. If he brings along Daboll, then obviously he's got somebody that they have history with, they have success with. And Chip Kelly and Pete, it was just kind of just didn't mesh.
Mm-hmm.
But, we have, take the time. Take the time. We have to get this. We have to nail this hire. Almost 63 years ago to the day, the Raiders were doing a coaching search. They had won 3 games over a 2-season period, and they needed to get it right. They cast a wide net. They were looking at Canadian football coaches. They even threw out the name Lombardi they wanted to look at. But they settled? No, not settled. They got a dynamic, force of nature wide receiver coach from the Chargers named Al Davis.
Mm-hmm.
He stayed around for about 45 years. So it didn't always used to be this rotational thing for the Raiders and their coaches. He wasn't the coach for long. But what they need to do is get it right. That team was something special, and we need to bring that back. This past weekend, they threw out 2 stats in a couple of games that showed how special. The Patriots, in the playoffs, in the fourth quarter, if they had an 8+ point lead, they're 29-1.
Wow.
You know who that one was? 1976, the Raiders in their Sugar Bear Hamilton game.
Mm-hmm.
Another one. Playoff teams on the road, turning the ball over 3 or more times, are 1-87. You know who that one was? 1977, goes to the post, the Raiders. Those teams were special, and it was because of coaching and great players. We need to get back to that. The world has been, and Raider Nation have been deprived of Raider greatness for 2 generations. It's the better part of 43 years. We want to get it right. Take your time. Nail that hire. And the Raiders' New Year's resolution for the world would be to give everybody back Raider excellence. That's what we're shooting for, JT. Thanks for the time.
You would know, Raider 66, a historian to the likes of my great former friend. He's my friend for life, Raider Mort, who passed away. I feel a lot of Raider 66 in Raider Mort as you look at the run that Al Davis had when he was hired and how one hire can change an organization for a long time. It can. One hire can change an organization for a very long time. The Buffalo Bills should be worried because McDermott was really good at coaching football, really good. Every time he took a team out there, he led them to mostly victories, and he got fired. Same with John Harbaugh because a kicker missed a kick. And Mike Tomlin lost 7 of his last 7 playoff games, 0 for 7. So in this coaching cycle, we've now come to know as fact, not fiction, that if you've been around for a while and you just can't get to the next level, you're going to get fired. You're going to get fired, and that'll be the end of you. And know it's coming. Know it's coming if you can't win in the playoffs and you have a good enough team to win the Super Bowl. Antonio's in beautiful Modesto, California. What's going on?
Hey, JT, always good to hear your show.
Thank you.
One quick couple things on that Denver play at the end of the game. I thought it was a catch, but, we can go talk to the sun comes down on that. I thought, and as much as I despise the Broncos, it's terrible that Bo broke his. I've watched the play a couple times. I'm still trying to figure out how he could ankle bone in his ankle. But I really wanted to see that game full Broncos against the Patriots. I do have the Patriots win either way. And then McDermott. I'm all on board with McDermott. I wanted Savasky at first, but I'm all on board with McDermott. I got a bad deal. I think he's a very, very professional. He's an experienced coach. He's got the Bills as far as they can go. I hate to say blame Josh Allen with those turnovers the other day, but I'm a McDermott guy. I don't care who he brings in. I want a man with experience. Give me McDermott all day. I hope they're making phone calls to get him over, speak to an interview.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing with McDermott. If we find out anything, we'll let you know. I got a buddy of mine who's a big Buffalo Bill, a guy, almost an insider on McDermott, and he really believes that the Raiders should go after him. I'm going back and looking at the text here that he sent me. Bring on next year the fans that paid all the money to sit in those new Buffalo seats. We'll be ready to pounce at every opportunity. Imagine if Coach McDermott leads the AFC division leader Raiders to victory in Sean's new dome in Vegas Allegiant. Could that happen? Imagine if Sean McDermott came to the Raiders, Clay, with Mendoza, and they hired one of these whiz kid offensive coordinators. You made Davis Webb the offensive coordinator.
Sure.
And McDermott was the head coach. That'd be pretty radical.
Especially when Buffalo comes in for a game to Las Vegas next year.
Yeah, that'd be pretty interesting.
Yeah, that would be good.
I'm not sensing from anybody in any circles that McDermott's on the radar. If he becomes on the radar, it'll probably be the same way when Pete Carroll became on the radar last year. Came pretty quick. I give Vinny a lot of credit. Vinny Bonsignore was sensing that. It could be Pete Carroll. If Ben Johnson doesn't want it, he was right. But everybody who says Sean McDermott, unfortunately, I have to remind them, you just had Sean McDermott, but better than Pete Carroll. On paper, Pete Carroll was a lot better than Sean McDermott, and it didn't work. He only got 3 wins. But McDermott's going to be highly motivated to get after the Bills, man. He's going to really want to get after the Bills in a way and show them that they made a mistake. Speaking of that, when we come back, I'm going to get on the Bills for what they did. That press conference today, I got up early in the morning. My wife and I had somewhere we had to be, and we came back, and I put up on my phone, I mirrored my phone on the TV for this Buffalo Bills press conference, and both my wife and I were like, what? This got good today. It came out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting it. It's the number one topic in football today, was the Bills press conference where the owner interrupted the GM president and kind of told some secrets that most people didn't know in Buffalo. We'll get to that when we come back on the other side. Brought to you by Boyd Gaming. All over the valley, 10 properties. Always bet on black. Thank you, everybody. I'm done for the day. It's Wednesday. No night show tonight. I got the Rod Pod tomorrow. Rod Woodson, Lay in the Wood. We'll do that on Thursday. I don't think there's going to be a Raider coaching hire in the next 2 days. You never know. And we'll start to focus more on the AFC and the NFC championship game. You can listen to the rest of the show. Appreciate you being here with us, either on YouTube or X. Thank you very much.